to observe and assess what is happening. We have our chair who will be leading the team, and he will be speaking more to their activities. His Excellency Yemi Osinbajo, Professor Yemi Osinbajo, who is the immediate former Vice President of the Republic of Nigeria, who is leading our team. And with us also today is Mr. Linford Andrews, who is head of the Electoral Support Section of the Commonwealth Secretariat, and of course, Ms. Abiola Sulmonu, who is the head of the Africa Section at the Commonwealth Secretariat. So without further ado, I will hand it over to our chair, Professor Yemi Osinbajo, to deliver his remarks, after which we will have some time to take questions from journalists. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Josephine. First, let me apologize for firmly wearing my mask. I'm conscious that I don't want to infect you with anything. I've been slightly under the weather, so I just need to wear my mask for the entire period. So I'm sorry that you will not be able to see all my expressions on my face. But members of the media, fellow observers, citizens of Sierra Leone, it's a privilege to be here once again in Freetown, and I must say that I'm at home. Today I'm here not only as a neighbor and a fellow African, but also as a fellow Commonwealth citizen, standing for the precious values that we all share: peace, democracy, the rule of law, and good governance. And it's an honor for me to chair the Commonwealth Observer Group to witness the multi-tier elections taking place within the coming days on 24th of June. Our 12-member observer group was constituted by the Commonwealth Secretary General, the Right Honourable Patricia Scotland, KC, following an invitation from the Electoral Commission of Sierra Leone to observe the poll. Members have been drawn from across the entire Commonwealth, representing a wealth of experience, and include experts in law, in politics, election administration alone, dating back to its independence, when the country became an independent state within the Commonwealth in 1961. The Commonwealth has observed every election in Sierra Leone since the end of the Civil War in 2002, as well as the general elections of 1996. In other words, the Commonwealth has been an enduring companion of the nation on this extraordinary journey, witnessing the country's evolution into what it is today. Today, we recognize the significance of these elections to the people of Sierra Leone, the region, and the global community, and we wholly appreciate the challenges that they present. The gains achieved over the last 2 decades of peacetime is a testament to the democratic spirit of the people and must be cherished, nurtured, and leveraged for continued peaceful and sustainable development. This is why, as a Commonwealth Observer Group, we're honored to be a part of this important democratic process. But let me be clear, the Commonwealth Observer Group has no executive role. Its function is not to interfere with or direct in any way, but to observe the process as a whole and to make recommendations accordingly. We will observe the pre-election environment, polling day activities, and the post-election period. In particular, we will consider whether the conditions exist for credible elections, including a fair election environment, whether public media has been impartial, the transparency of the entire process, whether voters are free to express their will, and whether the counting and results process is transparent. We will then report on whether the elections have been conducted in accordance with the standards to which Sierra Leone has committed itself, including its national laws and its regional and international commitments. In conducting our duties, we will be guided by the principles of neutrality, impartiality, objectivity, and independence. As we're here in our individual capacities as responsible and experienced Commonwealth citizens, our assessment will be our own and not that of any member government. That said, we have a very active period ahead of us. Over the coming days, we'll be meeting stakeholders, including the Electoral Commission for Sierra Leone, government representatives, political parties, security agencies, civil society groups, citizen and international observer groups, diplomats, and the media. From the 22nd of June, we will deploy our observers in small teams across parts of the country to observe the voting, counting, and results process, as well as meet with other stakeholders in respective locations. On election day, we will observe the opening, the voting, the closing, counting, and the results management process. We will issue an interim statement on our preliminary findings on the 26th day of June before members of the group depart Sierra Leone on the 30th of June. A final report will then be prepared and submitted to the Commonwealth Secretary General and subsequently shared with relevant stakeholders and made publicly available. Friends and colleagues, you are well aware that this is a crucial and delicate period. And it is my hope that our presence here affirms the unwavering support of the Commonwealth to this country and its democratic processes. The eyes of more than 2.5 billion of the Commonwealth, of whom are 60% persons who are under the age of 30, will be upon Sierra Leone, watching in solidarity and hope. The peaceful and prosperous future of the nation lies in your hands, and in that future, violence, division, and hate cannot play a part. The hard lessons that history has taught us through the tragic loss of lives and livelihoods we cannot afford to repeat. Therefore, as 3.3 million registered voters come forth to exercise their democratic rights on election day, as this great nation expresses its will for its future, may peace and justice and national unity prevail above all. And we enjoin all political parties and their supporters to uphold the commitments of the electoral pledge to free, fair, and violence-free elections signed by the political parties barely 2 weeks ago. And we encourage all citizens to do their part to ensure that a peaceful and credible process takes place on the 24th of June. As the great Madiba Nelson Mandela once emphasized, it's not our diversity that divides us, only the division between those who cherish democracy and those who do not. On behalf of the Commonwealth Observer Group, I wish the people of Sierra Leone well as they embark upon this historic election. I thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir. And that was the official statement, the audio statement from the chair of the Commonwealth Observer Group, Professor Yemi Osinbajo. At this time, we can take some questions from the media. Please, when you do have a question, raise your hand, introduce yourself and the media that you're representing, and your question, and we'll do our best to fit your view the amount of time that we have. Thank you. Yes, sir, please.
Just a second.
Yes. My name is Abu S. Sarali, and I'm a freelance journalist who has writing for Independent Observer as well and others. My question is, the Commonwealth Observers team is here, and Sierra Leone currently looking at the registrations of voters. There are lots of impediments within that area, which of course is the core thing that should be sorted out. Because the reason is the opposition parties are carrying power because of the data that are not comprehensive, standard, transparent. and they are not coherent. So how can we go to the booths without no standard data that are clear, crystal to everyone, you as observers? So what is your observation on that? Thank you very much.
We'll just take two at once, just because there's a lot of hands starting to come up.
Joseph Johnson, AYB.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear the name. I didn't hear the name.
To deploy observers in some parts of
The name?
Joseph Johnson,
Joseph,
AYB.
okay.
In some parts of the country, we want to know the total number of observers.
And one more question, please, and then we can go.
Prema James Nalo from the Teacher Media. The question here is about the electional process, specifically looking at the violence aspect, because that one is very much key, and we want to actually know how best is the Commonwealth, be there to actually protect us, especially with the journalists.
Thank you. So, Chair, colleagues, Commonwealth colleagues, we have had those three questions.
Can we take
your response, please?
Thank you very much for the questions. And I think the first question is the one by Abu, who wanted to know, who was concerned about the whole process and the problems associated with registration of voters. Let me say that we've heard some of those complaints, and of course there are other complaints. We've heard of those complaints, and we have only just arrived, but our position is that there must be consistent and continuing consultations with all the relevant organs, including the Electoral Commission. And we think that it's important that these complaints are thoroughly investigated by the appropriate authorities, and that remedy is sought and obtained wherever that can be done. But our concern at this point is to ensure that we, in our own role, as much as possible, speak with, and I've mentioned this already, we're going to be consulting with all of the relevant bodies, and these complaints will also be brought to their attention. We expect that, these issues will be taken up and thoroughly investigated, and actions will be taken by the relevant authorities. But again, just to mention that our role is the role of observers. We are not to control, direct, interfere. But as observers, of course, we will do the best we can to communicate the problems and issues that have been identified to the appropriate authorities, and we intend to continue to do so as the days go by, which is why we have extensive consultations with everyone, the political parties, the Electoral Commission, and even the judiciary. We're going to be speaking to practically everyone, and of course the candidates. I think that's a question. And then Joseph Johnson wanted to know how many observers we have in this particular team 12 observers, and we have a deployment plan which we hope will enable us to give an accurate assessment of how the electoral process has gone. And you must understand that no observer group can have the number of observers that it will take to go to practically every polling station, and that's not the intention. The intention is for us to get a feel for how the process pre-election, and of course pre-election means consultations which we're making with institutions and with political parties and all of that. So we understand the pre-election process. Our role is a whole of election cycle role. So election day is important, but pre-election, election day, and post-election are also very important. The whole results process and all that, which are all institutional management issues. So, and we have a very, I must say, a very experienced team from across the Commonwealth, from several countries of the Commonwealth. Many of them have worked in different nations as observers. So we expect that they'll bring their skills and their experience to bear on this very important assignment, the elections of the 24th of June. I think Brahma wanted to know how the Commonwealth can protect journalists. Frankly, I am not entirely certain how how we can, at least physically. But let me say to you that, as you know, the Commonwealth is committed to freedom of speech, freedom of expression, to the independence of journalism, to the independence of the press, and the rule of law, and all the pillars upon which proper democracies stand. And we continue to express those commitments everywhere we go. We communicate those commitments to governments and to institutions. And this is what we support. So it is from that perspective that we can, that perspective of support and our commitments to you and to the process that we can protect your rights. Of course, as you know, that is the extent to which we can go. But clearly, do not be in any doubt whatsoever that we support your rights to freely seek information, publish information, of course, subject to the laws and constitutions of Sierra Leone. Thank you. So we'll take the other.
Let's go 1, 2, and 3.
Good morning. Jumaba, Sierra Leone Media, a UK-based media institution. My question is with regards to peace. We know most recently there was a peace communique signed between all political parties in the presence of the head of Commonwealth Secretariat. But there's been so many reports and allegations of attacks, intimidation on individuals. We see kids of maybe 10 years old being beaten and all that, so videos have been circulated. What is the Commonwealth position on that? Because the undertaking for peace was signed in the presence of the head of Commonwealth Secretariat. What is the Commonwealth position in terms of protecting the safety and security of Sierra Leoneans who will be voting?
Thank you. Good morning, everybody. My name is Dr. Sheila of Choice Media Group.
The name is?
Dr. Sheila. Professor, you made a statement that you here to observe and to make a recommendation with you with the process of the election and the process in this country. We've heard so much about this election with regard to the peace process and counter intimidation statement between the two political parties, the main opposition and the ruling political party. You are going to recommend, what are you going to recommend if there is maybe some infringement or some causes that will cause more damage to this electionary process as we expected? Are there any other way that Commonwealth can make recommendations before the elections, or so some of the things they've seen that will hinder the progress of peace
with regard to the electioneering process. Thank you.
I'll just take a third here.
My name is Patrick Salia, and I work for the State Broadcaster, Sierra Leone Broadcasting Corporation SLBC. So, Professor, on a scale from 1 to 10, how would the observer group rate the electioneering process thus far on a scale from 1 to 10? And did I hear you say you'll be here till the end of this month?
Yes.
So what if there's possible runoff? How are we going to manage that?
Okay. And then,
We can address those three for now.
sorry, I just want to be sure that I got your last question. On the scale of 1 to 10, how will you rate the preparations?
The entire election process.
Okay. The entire electioneering process.
And how are you going to manage runoff?
If there is a runoff, okay. Okay, okay, and then runoff, okay. All right, thank you. So I'll start with the question from Juma, who wanted to know what the attitude of the Commonwealth will be, especially with respect to many reported cases of violence and some reported cases of intimidation, especially because the Commonwealth, not only the Commonwealth Secretary General witnessed the electoral pledge, and I've referred to that also in the course of this presentation. I want to say first that the commitment to peace is one that we take very seriously, and I believe that every Sierra Leonean takes seriously. And it is a commitment which, if you look at the electoral pledge, and especially the speech of the Commonwealth Secretary General on that day, there's a great emphasis on the role of leaders and leadership in ensuring that this peace is maintained. And this role is particularly crucial because leaders make the difference between stability and instability, and in many cases between peace and chaos. What leaders say, how leaders conduct themselves, is usually what prompts supporters and onlookers and others. So the emphasis for the Commonwealth is on the responsibility of leaders, leadership and institutions. And we have made this point very clear, and in our consultations with political parties and with leaders and with institutional heads, we're going to emphasize this. What the world witnessed when the electoral pledge was signed was heartwarming and very uplifting, because we saw a commitment of leaders across the political spectrum who said we're going to be committed to ensuring that there is a violence-free election, free, fair, violence-free election. And we understand the fragility of the situations, not just here in Sierra Leone, but Sierra Leone has experienced very difficult times. Those of us who live in this sub-region and live in this continent know how fragile, situations can be. And we cannot afford a situation where there is chaos or loss of lives or livelihoods. Nothing is worth that kind of experience again, which is why it's important for us to continue to emphasize to leaders across the political spectrum that we cannot afford a situation where the pursuit of political power results in the death or loss of lives of individuals or their livelihoods. So this is where we stand as the Commonwealth. And as I said, we will make sure that we emphasize this to institutional heads and to let everyone know and to let them realize that this is what the international community expects, especially of leadership. Yeah, I think Shilok wanted to know, considering all the statements we've heard so far about intimidation, can we make recommendations before the elections? Well, we cannot. What we intend to do, and as I've said, the process that we're undertaking at this point is a process of consultation and engagement with institutions, with political heads, with heads of political parties, with the civil society, with media, with everyone. Especially all of those stakeholders who are important in this electoral process. So while open recommendations is not what we intend to do, I mean, of course, we've said here today what our views are about stability, about, how the process should be free, fair, credible, transparent, and inclusive process. But what is important at this point is not to make some, public recommendations. At this stage, it's important for us to engage the institutions, to engage the major players in the political process, so that they understand clearly where we stand as an observer group, where the Commonwealth stands, and where the rest of the world stands, because everyone is looking in on the elections here in Sierra Leone. So what's important for us today is to ensure that we convey that to them, and also the concerns that have been expressed, all the concerns that have been expressed, all these concerns you're expressing about intimidation, about violence, and all of that. These are concerns that citizens have been expressed in the press, that individuals have expressed, politicians and people have expressed. So these concerns, of course, must be thoroughly investigated. We must ensure that they are not allowed to continue or to fester in any way, such as to jeopardize the outcome of the elections. But at this stage of the process that we're engaging in is actually talking to those who we believe will be important in the process. And we want to make sure that they clearly understand where the whole world, as it were, stands. Patrick wanted to know on the scale of engineering process. When you say 1 to 10, it's my doctor who always asks me that, about pain. On the scale of 1 to 10, how much pain do you feel? Let me just say that first, it will be unfair. Within a day or two of having arrived here to start making an assessment of that sort. We barely arrived, I think that at this stage, we're unable to make that kind of, specific finding as to where the rate, how we see the entire process. But that, of course, will emerge, especially in our interim report, which will come on the 26th. But I think what is important for us is taking into account what we're hearing, what is being said, and ensuring that is made the subject of the consultations that we're having with the important stakeholders in this process, So at this point, we're not able to make clear. Then with respect to the electioneering, with respect to the runoff, in the event of a runoff, in the event of a runoff, the Commonwealth's position, of course, is that we will assess that. And there's a need for us to observe that process. We certainly will put in place a system of assessing the process. But there will be time to consider all of that. So we're not necessarily a runaway because there's a runoff. It will be, yes.
Thank you, sir. So we'll take a few more from yourself. You want a question and yourself as well. Okay.
My name is Isaac Elisa Kamara, editor. Africa, Hidden Voice magazine. According to what you have got from our speaker, the Commonwealth has a wealth of experience in these matters. They have observed other countries that are coming here, and as he has told us, he's still on the consultation stage. The observation cuts across before, during, and after the elections. And I'm sure we have been engaging appropriate stakeholders in these matters. What can you tell us about the united front of these stakeholders as they are going to the polls? What can you tell us about the one-mindedness of these stakeholders as they are going to the polls in as far as the observation is concerned, meanwhile?
Your Excellency, I'm Emmanuel, representing the Citizens United for Peace from the U.S. Is it true to say right now that you are the physician and the stakeholders now are signing doctors' agreements? But it will analyze with all suspicion, because we as patients and surveillance observe that we have a virus and also we are intoxicated with power. So is it true to say that now actually the healing has to be done with surveillance rather than the Commonwealth?
I'm not sure I understand you clearly. One-mindedness, I assume, going into the election. Now, when we're at this to make any kind of judgment on that, we have to consult, we have to speak to them, we have to hear them, and we're just in that process, you know. So I don't think it would be fair to say anything about what the politicians feel, what the political heads of political parties or candidates feel at this point. I think it's because we're talking to them. But we hope will be united around first the peace and stability first of this country, because really at the end of the day that's crucial. You know, whatever political outcomes there are, you know, we must emphasize that the country must remain a country where, you know, people can live in peace and pursue their livelihoods in a peaceful environment. Emmanuel, you said that we are the physicians, and first, and I think I'm intrigued by your by the metaphors that you have used. But I must say that we cannot credit ourselves being physicians. I mean, I certainly will not credit myself with being a physician. But I agree with you that the future and fate of this nation lies in the hands of Sierra Leone, without a doubt. Which is why, you know, we emphasize that the process by which leadership is chosen is one that is credible, is inclusive, is transparent, gives everyone a fair chance to express their views. But we also emphasize that all of these processes and everything else, you know, must take into account the fact that people, it is people that we're talking about, the people of a nation, men, women, children, you know, millions of them that we're talking about. And that we must just always bear that in mind, that we're not, this is not just statistics, it's not just numbers, it's about people, lives of people. So I think, you know, I agree with you that this lies in the hands of Sierra Leoneans, but we also emphasize that the role of leadership is particularly important. Political leadership is particularly important on all sides of the political spectrum. The role of leaders is crucial because leaders determine to a large extent how people react to situations and how people react to circumstances. So I agree with you that this responsibility is that of Sierra Leoneans, and I just emphasize that it's also more so the responsibility of leaders. James, what is the most salient risk factor that will affect the democratic process? In my view, that will be chaos. That will be instability. It will be violence and chaos. I think that will compromise everything. It will compromise not just the elections, but the future stability and development of the country. So for me, that is something that we must work against in every possible way, which is why we take, all the trouble about peace, an electoral pledge, and all that, and everything else. I think that if there is one factor that could affect the democratic process, disastrously, that would be chaos. That would be violence and instability. I think those are the questions.
Thank you, sir. We'll just have the last questions here, ma'am, and ma'am here. Our two ladies, and then we can end the round of questions.
Thank you. My name is Leone. I'm an elections researcher. I want to ask about if it is in the remit of the Commonwealth Observer Mission to look at the proportional representation within the contestants' pool, and also to look at the results hereafter and how this has been affected by the recent passage of the gender equality bill.
How it has affected the gender equality? Okay.
Good morning. My name is Princess Pias. I work for Radio Democracy. I would just like to debate a little bit with regards to neutrality and transparency, because you already stated my concern is the independent assessment of whether the election has been conducted in a credible manner, because it was stated in the media memo sent. So when will we have access to the reports? And then secondly, another one has to do with the team. It's comprised of experts from different fields. It has to do with law, human rights, media, gender, diplomacy, and election administration. How would this help in the electionary process?
Did you get her name? Did you get her name?
What was your name again, madam? Princess.
Okay. Go ahead. Okay.
Yes, those will be our final two questions, sir.
Okay. Thank you very much. I think Olufola wanted to know about whether we're paying attention to the representation of women, especially in the light of the gender equality bill. The 30%, I believe, is the one that specifies that at least 30%, there should be 30% representation of women. That's a very major concern of the Commonwealth Observer Group. And not only do we have representation in our observer group of expertise that will consider this issue, we're also consulting with a number of women's groups. And we'll be speaking, I think, even today to a group that will assist us in looking at this issue and paying attention to exactly what is going on with respect to representation of women. For the Commonwealth, as you know, one of the pillars for us of credible elections is inclusivity. Inclusivity, of course, emphasizes the women, and aside from the role of other vulnerable groups, the role of women is also very important. And here in Sierra Leone, particularly so, because of the very large number of registered women voters, But I think it's with respect to political participation, that there is some emphasis, and we intend to make findings on that, and we intend to consult, so that we're able to make a firm, assessment of what is going on and make our recommendations, because the issue that's being grappled with in very many Commonwealth countries, the issue of inclusivity, gender representation, and we will make our recommendations, especially based on of the knowledge and expertise that's been gathered from other Commonwealth countries, engagements with other Commonwealth countries, and we'll do the best we can to pass that on, so that the institutions and political parties can be informed of best practices here and there, and how to ensure that we actually get results from legislation that promises proportional representation for women. Princess wanted to know about when you'll get the first reports of our independent assessment. The first official report, which will be made public, will be on the 26th of June. That's our interim report. Thereafter, we will finalize, we'll have a final report, which will be concluded and then published and made available. But the very first report, where you'll find our assessment, will be on the 26th of June. That will be the interim report, which will be published. I think I left out a last point that you raised, aside from the... Oh, yes. You wanted to know how the different expertise will contribute to the final results. I think that practically every feature, especially of things that the Commonwealth believes to be important in a democratic process, we have expertise in every one of those areas. So we have expertise in government, election administration. There are, for example, amongst us, even someone who has been electoral commissioner, in a country that has over 900 million voters. I mean, I used to think that Nigeria, we had large numbers, about 90, but Dr. Zaidi is here from India, where he served meritoriously as electoral commissioner, and registered voters. So that kind of expertise obviously will help a great deal here in Sierra Leone, where the numbers are relatively smaller, And so it will be, and that's exactly what you'll find with a lot of the experience and expertise that's available with media, for example, those who've served, and who have watched media, I think there's Ngwani, who is here, who's been practically across, Africa, not just monitoring and observing elections, but especially with particular attention to the media. So there's a wide range of expertise. We have 2 justices of courts in the Commonwealth who are here. These are judges of the courts. We're also going to be speaking to the judiciary, and they will be speaking to the judiciary. So this expertise is very crucial, and of course, for gender rights and ensuring balance, we have that level of expertise here as well, people who have considerable experience. So I think that the expertise we'll find here will be extremely useful in coming to an assessment of coming to an assessment of the way that the entire electoral cycle here has gone, and will certainly help in our ability to assist the institutions and assist the political process here as much as that is possible with the reports that we'll be submitting. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. And everyone, thank you for making the time to be here with us. That concludes today's press conference. Please note that the chair's speech and also a press release that we will issue shortly after this will be available on our website. And if you've sent me your email, I can send it directly to you or via WhatsApp. So please, I think everybody, I have your contact details. So we will be sending that to you. Sorry, we don't have any hard copies, but there will be the speech and the press release. As mentioned by the chair, our next press conference will be on the 26th. And in the interim, if we do have any media engagements while at the polls, I'll also let you all know. My name is Josephine Latu-Sanft. You would have gotten my contacts by now. I'd like to also thank the Sierra Leone Association of Journalists for assisting us in disseminating the information, and also AYV, who is streaming this live to the people of Sierra Leone. Thank you very much. Have a good day.
Wait, Leone.